Ever since it became legal during the 1960s, gambling within football has definitely reshaped our sport in an overall attempt. Whether it's seeing a clever PR stunt being performed by Paddy Power, with one of the most iconic memories being the Huddersfield Town kit launch in the 1920 season, or simply just you and your mates loading up the likes of Sky Bet to claim a free £1 bet, the relationship between betting and football is one no sports fan can now ignore. I'm Josh Hubbard, and welcome to the Footy Chat, where we'll be delving into the gambling side of the sport today. Just very quickly before we start today's podcast episode, please make sure to click the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos, and hit the bell icon too so you can be notified about these uploads. Now, if you think back to some of the most iconic kits of all time, whether it's the, say, Bruce Banana kit from Arsenal, the Pirelli Inter Milan kit, or even international ones such as the Brazil home kit, you can tell they're all really like simple and there's nothing too special about them, but it's the simplicity that makes them really stand out. Whereas if you fast forward to the modern day, in this era, it's hard to find a kit within particularly English football that hasn't become, so to speak, a canvas for betting companies to advertise themselves to sports fans, both within the stadiums and also on televised programmes like Sky Sports in front of thousands, if not millions of fans. I mean, this first follow from The Guardian displays an array of both teams and also the amount of betting companies that there are now with, West Ham having Betaway, Watford having Sportbet.io, Bet365 being a popular one as well, and more relevantly like Stake being with both Everton and now of Watford as well, I believe. It's clear to see that betting's definitely reshaped football kits within the last couple of years, say. But also in an attempt to remove the vast amount of advertisement within gambling in football, the Premier League and the respective clubs have banned gambling sponsors in front of shirts from the 26-27 season, according to The Guardian. It comes after an announcement from the anti-gambling campaign, The Big Step, which is an organisation all about wanting to not reduce gambling as such, but also just the impact that it has within families and fans as well. Although this may seem like a good move for anti-gambling campaigns such as The Big Step, in an attempt to remove such big logos of betting companies within football kits, one article I found from the end of last season, 8 of the 20 Premier League clubs, so the likes of Brentford, Everton, Leeds, Southampton from all last season, all those clubs mentioned and a few more have betting logos within their shirt sponsors, and the collective value of those contracts is an estimated 60 million a year. So obviously the club's financially going to miss out with some regard, but with these changes happening, I feel like it's more of a moral impact than it is a financial one that the likes of The Big Step will want to have with this revolution. Another thing that gambling commissions, so Be Gamble Aware, have done is their campaign of When the Fun Stops, Stop. Obviously it's a simple campaign with a clear but also instructive message of knowing where your limit is, and also one saying like stay in control and set a deposit limit. So again, advising people that may see this and may have gambling addictions or like an urge to put money on a match, it's more of a incentive to think about it and have the consequences of gambling in the back of customers' mind. It is a good action that they've took. And to place this on kits as well, it obviously could mentally do wonders for people that may, like I say, may have addictions to gambling and stuff. So it's positive to see this action being took. To delve into this issue further and to understand the problem of gambling in football more, I spoke to Cian, who's a member of the CALM campaign, so Campaign Against Living Miserably, just like as I say, to understand the issue more and to see what he had to say about the problem of gambling in football. So first of all, thank you, Cian, for joining today. My first question is, how big of an issue is gambling within football, would you say?
I'd say it's a pretty big problem, to be honest. I mean, you've got your local working class people every day, they earn the money, provide for the families, and then sometimes some of them will, all they have is the footy, that's all they have in their life. So they'll whack a tenner on, or they'll whack 50 quid, however much they want to whack on. They'll think they're going to win big, and then they'll lose it. And then before you know it, the real problems start kicking. They haven't got enough money to get the weekly shopping, to even just like, take the kids out for a nice little treat because they've decided to blow it all on something that realistically only lasts for either a weekend or just 90 minutes in general. But yeah, it's definitely a big problem in today's society, especially with it being growing and more advertising, particularly within football. You've got it on sleeves on football shirts. You've got some stadiums even having branding rights for some betting companies. Um, but it's good to see that they're cracking down on particular even sports people gambling because I mean that's a big problem in itself. You've got Ivan Toney, you've got Sandra Tonali, even their sports people within their own field and they're betting because they don't really see anything wrong with it. They see it as like some sort of money making scheme, but we all know it's not. The house always wins some way or another.
So do you believe, because you touched on it then, do you believe with the removing logos, this gambling logos on Premier League kits from 26-20 season, that now being a rule being implemented, do you think that would make gambling addictions or problems less prominent?
I think definitely, especially when you see that some people would argue that if gambling is so frowned upon and so wrong, why would the likes of Ronaldo or Messi, arguably the two greatest football players ever, wear football shirts that literally brand and advertise gambling? So surely if they're advertising it, it should be okay. And that, if anything, definitely contributes to the problem. But I've always agreed with, say, with kid-size kits, they've never had any gambling or alcoholic beverage companies being advertised on them to prevent, younger kids from seeing it and being like, oh, what's that? And then asking questions they really don't need to know the answers to. Because I mean, it's like I said, it's like so some people kind of look at it and go, well, if they're advertising it, surely they don't think it's that bad. And just seeing it less obviously is like it's going to reduce it because it's like to give just a really brief and probably irrelevant and stupid example. If there wasn't as many Mackey's adverts, not that many people would be going to Mackey's anymore because they'd be thinking, "You never hear about that anymore."
Yeah. When you see companies like Paddy Power trying to make light of gambling by making it in a fun, jokey kind of sense, um, someone who does work in like an anti-gambling campaign like Calm, how does that leave you and the company feeling when you see that kind of behavior?
Well, it's sort of upsetting because obviously, but as you probably know, at the end of every gambling advert, they'll have gamble aware. When the fun stops, stop. But whenever you see those adverts, all they tend to highlight is the highs. They never really show you the lows of it, which is
Hmm.
what we try to do as a company. We try to make people realize that like gambling is like 10%, maybe not even that. You might get the odd few quid in, but the rest of it is you're losing your money. Like it's a fool's game. Which is a sad thing to admit, considering some people probably do. The only joy that they feel in the week is when they put a fiver on a treble and it comes in. Um, but yeah, no, it's just it's yeah, it's I'd say it's more annoying than anything because, like I said, it's like as we try our best to kind of tell people about how like it's a like I was saying before, it's a fool's game. It's more lows than highs, but they try to almost like make it seem as if it's this childish game that has no consequences, but that's not true at all.
And then just finally, what else do you believe can be done to crack down on gambling issues within all of football, whether that's again on kits or promotion of it or anything like that? Like what can be done, do you reckon?
I think just having more voices that the general public or just everyday gamblers would listen to, like even sporting personalities, like say like maybe even Jeff Stelling. So he was one of the
Hmm.
faces of Super Six for a while. So you'd think he
Sorry.
endorses the whole gambling side of it. And if we had more voices like him who have been there and kind of like and have advertised, they turn around and say, "Listen, no, it's you really need to watch what you're doing." Like I think that would definitely provide some sort of light. And I think that they're already making small steps, like with they'd say it was 2027 or 2026 that they're removing.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I imagine the start of the 26, 27 season. It's quite a few years away yet, but yeah, that's the
yeah,
rule there, putting it to the
but yeah,
Premier League anyway.
well, yeah, even that's just a good start because I mean, hopefully they'll be able to even advertise like maybe some of the charities from the clubs or even anti-gambling associations like ourselves would definitely be a start. And I think maybe even cracking down or making a legal limit as to how much people can put on at a time would even just because there's some people just don't know when to stop, which is where the main problem lies and don't know when enough is enough. But within the sporting world, I think definitely having more voices speak up about the negatives about gambling and how it genuinely like affects people's lives in ways that it really unnecessarily should um is 100% a great step in the right direction.
And do you believe, just finally touching it, do you believe enough has been done as well?
I think certainly with the crackdown on within certain areas of gambling, so like with athletes betting within their own sport or even other sports, is definitely um a step in the right direction because people will look at that and think like, oh, well, surely they're allowed to bet on themselves. It just shows that they're confident that they're going to score at the weekend, like with Tony, or in his case, that knowing that his team are probably going to get battered.
Hmm.
Um, because like I was just saying, then it kind of shows that they're almost like no one's untouchable. Like and at the end of the day, it can constitute cheating. And yeah, I'd say there's definitely more of a need and an outcry for more anti-gambling advertisement rather than actual gambling, just because of how much of a problem it is now, like compared to like 5 or 6 years ago when every football club would have had some sort of like association with a gambling firm or company.
Mhm. Brilliant. Well, that's all the questions. So thank you for your time.
Firstly, a big thank you goes out to Keane for taking the time for his input on the issue of gambling problems within football. And as he suggested, there can definitely be issues when it comes to how much money people are willing to spend to have that dopamine feeling, even if they are chasing a loss or just simply want a financial boost. As mentioned, Calm is one of the many organisations looking to tackle the big issue of gambling problems within the UK. And one study of their own suggests more than 400,000 people now have a gambling problem, showcasing the severity of this issue and also proving that a lot more needs to be done in terms of support for betting addictions. I believe it's also good in terms of what anti-gambling campaigns such as Calm are doing in an attempt to raise awareness about the issues that can lead into betting within football, such as the removal of betting logos being plastered on shirts in the Premier League in a few seasons' time. Although there is definitely a lot more work that could be done to reduce the risk of gambling. The EFL, for example, is still sponsored by Sky Bet, and so it might be difficult for those with addictions or past trauma to not think about this. Having said that, however, some clubs have signed up to support the Big Step campaign, such as Forest Green and Tranmere Rovers of League Two, whilst a lot of semi-professional clubs have also undertaken this agreement to stop gambling adverts take place in football. If you or someone you know is struggling with a gambling addiction, the free-to-use number to GamCare is 0808 8020 133. And I'll have that on screen as well if you are watching. And they can support you in whatever you need, open 24 hours a day and every day of the calendar year. Please make sure, as you mentioned before, to subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. We are looking to discuss all problems in football, not just gambling, so any kind of support within the channel outright really helps us. And like we say, gambling issues and other issues are a big problem that we care about and that we want to be the voice of. So as I say, it would massively help. And if you did enjoy this episode, please make sure to leave a like and also comment as well if you have enjoyed. Our next episode is all about the 3 p.m. blackout controversy with another guest as well. And it's one you definitely won't want to miss. Thank you again, and until next time, goodbye.